She's in Virginia. She said, so what happened to Audra? So the show ends. Do you wish she had moved on, gotten married? What do you think Audra's storyline was after the show?
Well, that's such a great question because I never went there because of my life and my husband who wanted to whisk me into another life. Um, Goodness, I of course would hope that she found the man that made her completely and totally happy and that she lived very close to her family and that she had children and, that she lived a wonderful life. I don't know. I've never even contemplated such a thing.
Oh, well, Sherry, thank you for sending in your question.
I want to just say thank you to everyone who sent in all these wonderful questions. How sweet of all. I mean, I'm so touched that all of you have put your mind into asking things that I've never even explored in my own mind or that you wondered about. And thank you for the time and effort you put into doing this.
Yes, thank you everybody for doing that. I mean, without these great questions, I mean, we could go on forever and ever. They just keep coming. This is fantastic. So keep sending your questions and we're going to answer as many as we can. Let's talk about food for a second. So you wrote a book a few years ago. It's called Recipes for Life, and it is half recipes, half memories of your life. You love to cook. You've won a cooking show before, but you don't, I've heard you don't consider yourself to be a chef. Like you would never do a show. Is that correct?
I'm not a chef. I'm simply a woman. The book was done because I can't imagine writing about my life without food because I love feeding people. I love food. To me, feeding someone is love. I mean, if I can find out your favorite recipe in life and I can make the best you've ever had and watch you eat it, I'm the happiest woman in the world. I love feeding people.
I'm going to go book my flight now to come out.
I love even doing the dishes. I love planning it weeks in advance. I love everything about it. To me, it's what I think the world misses a little bit today, where we used to just sit and talk and eat and be together and bond together and learn about each other and then enjoy the best things in life, the food, the wine. I mean, it's just to me one of those, it's loving people.
What's your favorite thing to cook?
Anything you like. That's the point it's about. Well, for me, but for people, that's why to this day, I have so many cookbooks, Bon Appetit, Food and Wine, whatever. I have more recipes. I'd have to live 12 lifetimes to cook all the things I want to cook for people.
And you have a fairly extensive garden or orchard, if you will, where you at your home. Mm-hmm. What kinds of things do you grow?
All the regular vegetables that people grow. And I have people that help me with that. It's not my entire project. But I have, like 50 fruit trees and I have, a greenhouse and a vegetable garden with broccoli and you name it, cauliflower, greens, basil, herbs, things that you eat. Yeah, my house is pretty self-sufficient. I have solar, I have my own well. It's like a little city. I live on 70 acres. It's like our own little city.
Oh, nice.
A lot of work. People say, what do you do? I could just be involved with this every day of my life.
Suzanne wants to know, how often is Missy's hobo filet on your menu these days?
Swear to God, about 8 days ago, I went to Trader Joe's because it was easier than our local meat market we have here. We have to stand in line and outside, and there's a few people in the car and a few people out, and had that. I made that for myself just like 8 days ago. It was wonderful. Do they know what that is? Do people in the audience know what that is? Should I tell them what that is?
Yes, please. I know you had mentioned that Barbara loved to eat. You had to start the day with protein.
Steak. Yeah, she'd have a big steak in the morning, so she'd have energy. But we used to, for our fun time, we would go to Chasen's. That was in those days, the most popular, elegant restaurant in Beverly Hills that there was. And you would sit at these she of course had her own private table always that they would come to, and she would have certain things that they would make for her, which was a fillet that they would put crust and salt, and then they would bring it to the table and they would slice it and cook it and put it on this toast. They'd fry it right there for you. And it was our standard thing we would have together. So because we would have that all the time, when I thought of her and recipes, it was, I made, Chasen's doesn't exist anymore. It's a part of Hollywood that just, you know, went the way some things go. They finally just pass away. But we had some of our greatest moments there together, talking about love and life and all sorts of things.
Callum Stephen, or at Callum Stephen on Instagram's curious, what inspires you and what makes you happy? So we know food's part of that equation. What's been keeping you busy these days that really makes you love life?
Well, my favorite thing that I've done in the last 20 years is I do a lot of talks around the country with women. I love talking with women. I love hearing their journey in life, and I love sharing them mine. Probably because my mom died when I was 23, my dad when I was 15. There aren't a lot of stories you get to hear, or you know how you want to go, hey, you know, what did you do when you were whatever? It's like I have a world of information and knowledge. I've learned so many things, and if I could make someone's life easier by sharing with them some of it, it's just my joy. It's like I get booked somewhere and I look forward to going, and I show up and it's like heaven to me, just talking with women.
Have you mentored any other up and coming actresses or actresses throughout the years as, maybe not to the extent, but as Barbara had been in your life? Have you helped other actresses in the industry?
Oh my goodness.
Or maybe you didn't
I
even know.
certainly would help anyone who has ever asked for any information, but I would never presume that I would be. I mean, Barbara Stanwyck can mentor anyone. I would never presume that position unless someone looked like they would like a little help and ask for it.
Adrian on Facebook, who's watching right now, is interested in knowing if there are any plans for future acting projects for you.
Well, it's interesting because I thought for a long time that was so in my past. And there's a couple of things that have interested me. If they were right, I would do something, but I don't need to work. I may not work, but if it's the right situation, I'm liking challenges more and more. It's like when you said to me earlier today that we were going to do this and I've never done it before. Instead of getting nervous, I kind of got excited because I think as I get older, I'm braver somehow. I don't know. I have more courage about everything. I'm stepping out more now than I ever have in my life instead of stepping back. And I'm liking the challenges that life's bringing me.
I'm going to take that with me to the next week. So every time that I'm stuck in a rut, I'm going to repeat that moment to me, and that'll get me by.
Excitement will get you through anything. Excitement.
So
just get excited.
How have you enjoyed so far? We are 34 minutes into your first Facebook Live. How do you feel?
I'm loving it, and I'm enjoying you very, very much because you're very warm. When I look at you, I just feel so comfortable. And it's so touching because I haven't thought the memories since I committed to this, the memories that flood me.
You're welcome to share. Keep sharing, like whatever's popping in, by all means, tell us these stories.
It's so dear because it's almost like, because you live your life and you go on. You don't live in the past. You go on to new things. And it's just brought up a world of wonderful, I mean, I'm so fortunate that I've had such a good life. And, you know, I think of Richard Long, one of the warmest human beings. He played Jared. I was so shy and he made me feel so comfortable. He made me feel safe. You know, they're just things you remember that come back to you, the kindnesses of people, the generosity of them, the way fans respond as if we're a part of their family. You know, I meet the parents and the grandparents. I mean, I know family generations of people, you know, because then the grandmother wants the kids to see it. And I feel like, you know, like here I'm a human being like every other human being, but I have friends and family all over the world who say beautiful things to me. And what kind of life is that? That's like a magical life, right?
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. As we're reminiscing on this, in talking about, you know, you started as were you 19 or 20 when you started on the Big Valley?
22, going on
You.
23.
Okay. So
Because I'm 77, so that would be back 55 years.
I'll take your math. I don't math well, so I'll
Yeah,
take your.
that's it.
So, doing the show in the 60s, and you were a pioneer for leading women as you came into the industry. So as you reflect on the industry today, what kind of stands out as what changed for leading women over the years? You know, what do you see happening now that you're like, yes, I'm so excited for this, you know? And
Well, I'm very excited because, firstly, when I was doing Big Valley, how many channels were on? How many channels did people have choices from? Look how many channels we have. Look how much more women are working. Look, I recently saw an interview. I was looking at something for the Big Valley and an interview, and I looked at it and I thought, oh my God. I mean, when you were 40, you were like finished. That was like, they were shocked that Aaron Spelling chose Joan and chose me for Dynasty. And I was almost 40 and she was in her 40s. So it was like, now women 40s, nothing, 40, 50, and there are women in their 60s, 70s who are doing great work. I mean, great work. So I'm thrilled. There are more powerful roles for women. Of course, women are making films, getting Academy Awards for them, having their own film productions. It's just burst open in the most beautiful way. And of course, there's a downside. We all know the fight was not easy and there were ceilings to break through and things that had to be done, but it's being done.
what have fans told you over the years that maybe we didn't touch on in this broadcast yet that have stuck with you and you're like, I had that kind of impact on you? I mean, even if it was just the memory of Audra or the memory of that, you know I watched you on TV with my family and you know, nostalgia of those moments.
So many stories. It's like, okay, where do we go? Of course, I love that they said I wanted to be like you when I grew up, or I wanted to do what you did here, or did what you did there. Um, it was not uncommon that they would say, my father's in love with you. It's like, oh my goodness, would you mind, you know, doing this and that for my dad? And, you know, and then it got to my grand, you know, then there's time when my grandfather was in love with you, you know, because the stories when they get older. But it was very dear how you had families that grew up with all of this and the personal, you know, would you write happy birthday to my dad because of this, and we're not allowed to talk when you're on, and you know, things like that. Just sweet, sweet, dear things.
So this lovely